All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Jacob. I am a fellow with the Chain Collaborative for the 2025-2026 season and your moderator for this first webinar in a series of webinars. Well, letting everyone kind of slowly trickle in. I'll give everyone a few more minutes and then we can kind of get things started. If anyone is in need of translation, please follow these instructions, and that should help you get the translations and captions going as well. All right. So once again, my name is Alex Jacob. I am a 2025-2026 fellow with the Chain Collaborative. I want to thank everyone for joining us, our panelists. Thank you so much for being a part of this. We are really, really excited. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Chain Collaborative, our mission is to create and co-create opportunities to strengthen capacities for community-led change. Our primary program is the Community-Led Development Incubator. Now, this program is around 18 months, and through this program, local leaders of community-based organizations in coffee growing regions can design, carry out, and measure the impact of their own community-led initiatives. Once they graduate through the program, they will join our alumni network. We are joined by many fellow alumni members here in this webinar, and it is through this network that we foment new learning opportunities. This year, alumni members suggested they wanted to learn more about market trends, so we developed this three-part webinar series focused on discussing market trends, starting with trends in green coffee production and processing. So thank you so much for joining us. I now want to introduce our other webinar series that are coming up in October and November. So stay tuned, and we thank you again for joining us in our first of the series. So with us, we have a group of panelists we are very excited to have. It is truly an honor. First, we have Moata Raya from Crop to Cup, Nima Tenzing Sherpa from Locali Coffee Estate, María Donneys from Cafe Primitivo in Colombia, and Andrea Brito Nuñez from Osito Coffee. So thank you guys so much. It is a pleasure. So now, if you are interested in joining the Q&A session at the end, please go to the bottom of your screen and there should be an option to enter any Q&As. We'll be monitoring that and asking our wonderful panelists any of the questions that you might be interested in that we might not answer in our time. So first, Anna, you're up. From your perspective, what does trend truly mean? Often we might think of trends as new cool things that people are gravitating towards. But in your context, where do you think trends are really coming from and how are they evolving?
Well, hello, Alex, and hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I am Ana Maria, and I'm, of course, from Colombia. I would just wanted to say that it's an honor to be here and to talk a little bit of my perspective from Colombia and how we see these new trends. It's from my perspective, it's a way of young generations and producers to look for more value on what we're doing, kind of bringing processing to a next level, I guess. This is what we're trying to do from at origin level, let's say, from farm level. Personally, I am a fifth generation coffee producer, and I was really not very excited about being a coffee producer when I was growing up. And I thought that's nothing that I was dreaming of, really, because I grew up seeing my family struggle with coffee through the years I was growing up. And just as me, I know there's lots of people in young generations that do not want to repeat the same story. But from my perspective, seeing at all these new trends and watching what we're seeing in processing, in technologies, in bringing science to the farm, is transforming the way we're seeing at the farm for our future. And so I really love what we're seeing. I really love that there's producers and processors that are going out of the box and thinking out of what we have always done for generations, and that this is actually bringing value and sustainability for the farm and for the work that we do every day. I feel like we always want to grow and to when we were growing up as little kids, we always want to, I don't know, we have big dreams and to super, I don't know how to say this in English, but superarse. Um, but and by thinking that you can professionalize yourself, bring information, bring new that you can learn, and that you can go, I don't know, bring what you learn at the university or at school and science, and you can put all of this in what you do in your daily life in coffee, and at the end the market is going to pay for that. It's something that is transforming the way that we see coffee. I remember when I decided to come back, my family was looking at me like, no way, no, this, like, that's not the future that you want for yourself. And I actually tried and decided to come back after I understood that there was a different way of um, producing, processing, and connecting with the market that wasn't something, it wasn't a possibility before. If I think of my grandfather, he never roasted his own coffee. He never talked to a person on the other side of the world that was actually drinking his own coffee. And this is some opportunities that the technology, that social media is bringing to us. And it's, for me, it's an advantage for this new generation to take and to bring the value to what we do. So on the other side, I also think these new trends are followed by um, climate change. Um, I also remember my grandfather when he was getting a farm. He always said no farm over 1,600 meters above sea level, and it wasn't a possibility. Coffee above that altitude was not even grown, and now we see that this is kind of almost the lowest altitude that people are looking for, and climate change is a reality. And even though I could love to have a farm in 2,000 meters above sea level, it isn't just a decision and that's it. It's the farm that I inherited, and that's the farm that I will have to work with. And just as me, there's lots of new people that are actually inheriting these types of farms that are below what we consider as specialty, I don't know, market that is actually valuable. And I think that through processing and through science and through bringing these innovations to the farm, we're making new possibilities for these farmers that have to have a lot of struggles thanks to climate change. And this is increasing every year. We have seen that our product has come down in around 40% of production every year. Like, we have seen a lot of these in a lot of farms, and we need to get a value to that 60% left. We need to get it in a better way. And I feel like this processing techniques and technologies that we're bringing just by changing uh, traditionally washed coffees to honeys or naturals and using less water is also helping. And at the end, if you can use the same varieties at the same time, we can't compete maybe sometimes with traditional coffee against, I don't know, this super exotic varieties that are always paid better. But we can do better through the science that we're bringing and what we're experimenting and doing at the farm level. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think one thing that's really interesting is the bringing the technology and things you've learned to the farm. In my head, I think it's great because it almost validates that if we're investing in these new developments, technology, things like that, it almost, I mean, validates what everyone is doing at origin and those processing methods. There's investment going into that. So thank you. Tenzing, how does Anna's perspective on trends in Colombia resonate with what you're seeing in Nepal? What is shaping production and processing there, and what's your perspective on that?
Uh, well, thank you, Alex, for having me here on the show and the webinar. Well, namaste, everyone, and a very good evening from Nepal. My name is Tenzing Sherpa, and I am a first-generation coffee grower and an exporter from Nepal. And I'm also founder of Lekali Coffee State and have been producing specialty coffees since 2008. And I've been very much engaged in the coffee value chain since 2008 and have been very closely monitoring the whole trends and the production sector, coffee production sector in Nepal very closely since 2008. Well, talking about Nepal, I think Nepal seems to be a bit off in terms of other coffee producing countries. We don't we as a country, we don't produce a lot of coffees in general. Our total production is close to about 400 to 500 metric tons per year. And a lot of the coffees that are being grown and produced in Nepal comes from a lot of smallholder farmers in Nepal, especially holding a land size of less than a hectare, sometimes to probably 5 to 10 hectares. So in that sense, we still have a lot of a lot of inadequacy in terms of processing and other things. But the way I've seen the coffee industry from what it was back in 2013 to what it is right now, definitely the trend has shifted more towards farmers growing coffees in a traditional manner to more, have a scientific approach or a biological approach towards growing, especially in regards to coffee that is being grown very close to the shade. And also farmers are now engaged in more of producing specialty lots, and they've been trying out with new varietals, with what they have in the past to what now they are experimenting with new varietals, and also in the processing sector as well. So one of the key things that I have seen based on my experience in the past, is a lot of influence have been soaked in by a lot of youths in Nepal that have sort of migrated to other Gulf countries and started working in cafes, in roasteries, and in other coffee trading houses. And now they have an idea of, okay, we want this kind of coffees. These are the new trends that's happening in the coffee industry. Because if you look at Nepal, we have a huge problem of labor migration towards the Gulf countries and other countries as well. And one key thing that a lot of producers or a lot of youth have been taking is coffee, because right now coffee seems to be sort of a hot cake for a lot of young generation people. And most of the people, when they come back to Nepal, one of the habits that they take they take when they come back to Nepal is a habit of drinking freshly roasted coffees or freshly brewed coffees. So when that comes to the mind, a lot of young generation people who have been living in the Gulf countries or working as a baristas or roasters, they get exposed to a lot of different coffees, a lot of different processing, I'm sure. And these are the trends that we have been seeing in Nepal as well, in terms of these young guys coming back to Nepal, starting a small farm of their own, and then try to curate lots based on what's happening around the world, especially in regards to social medias. A lot, they look up into different new processing experiments, like naturals, to anaerobic extended naturals that we see these days, to to hydro honeys, or things like that. So I think in terms of the processing, definitely we see a huge demand of extended anaerobic naturals right now from Nepal, but that has its own challenges from a processors and from production side, because like I said, a lot of the coffees that is being grown in Nepal are grown by smallholder farmers, and sometimes we end up getting a mixed lot of varietals or mixed lot of coffees. So that is something that, we as a processor, we have to take that risk and take that risk completely to us, and then sort of have build a relationship with the buyers, and then take it forward. So but I think in terms of the processing and production, a lot of the coffees that we see in Nepal are coming out from these smallholder farmers, and the influence is more taken on by these youths who are working in these Gulf countries, Dubai or Qatar, and taking that inspiration of curating these new experimental processing and have that knowledge from these social media or from doing a lot of research, and taking an influence from other producers around the world, and taking that idea and coming back to Nepal and trying to do something new for the producers. So I think in general, the trend definitely has shifted more towards these exotic experimental processing. But definitely there are a lot of risks and there are a lot of challenges associated to that. In terms of the production, definitely we are seeking more and more farmers getting engaged in back to farming, because we have, like I said, we do have a lot of migration issues from Nepal. But now I think these laborers or these people working in the Gulf countries are now coming back to their home country and trying to, grow coffee so that they can at least have they can at least make a good living, and they can stay with their families, and at the same time they can create some good coffee so that they can export. So in that sense, the trend definitely is shifting more towards planting new varietals, experimenting with new coffee processing techniques like extended naturals and so on. So in the future, I think we as a country, we look at production from, we want to increase the yield per plant, but at the same time we want to make sure whatever we produce in Nepal, we make the best out of it. Because given the production of the country, like right now, most of the risks are being taken on by the processors themselves. And this risk has to definitely be turned into a value that needs to be respected by a lot of our roasters. So I think we see a big opportunity and a potential for Nepalese coffees, looking at the trends and the processing techniques as we see in the specialty market right now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I also want to express that we would love to hear any questions and we would love to answer them. So please, if you can go to the bottom, there should be an option for you to submit any questions. We'll be going through it and are excited to get to them once we get to the end of this. Moata, in your experience, what are the challenges of curating lots in Ethiopia? How can producers or processors navigate these challenges amongst other needs, such as the need to adopt climate smart agriculture or engage with new compliance protocols?
Thank you, Alex, for giving this opportunity, and thank you for other team also to talk to speak about Ethiopian coffee on this platform. Just to begin with, Ethiopia is a birthplace of Arabica coffee, and also home of biodiversities of coffees. I am a coffee expert in the past. Like I have 20 years and more experience working in coffee industry. I am also from the coffee growing region from Nima area. My parents, my family has coffee plantation, small holder. Just to begin to answer the question regarding the challenges that to curating the load separation in Ethiopia, I wanted to see the trends of processing in the past 30 years. When we look Ethiopia processing in the past 30 years, we were processing coffees mostly like washed, and I mean natural. Because of a lot of rains are raining, it is difficult to process that. That's because of that, most of the coffee in the past 30 years 30 years ago, it was like more of natural with lower qualities, like grade 4, 5 coffees. Through the climate change, as well as through learning quality and also the market, the processing is a little bit improved from the larger share was natural to just some washed coffee started because of the sun drying, the water, everything is suitable for washed coffee. We started like that. These things are the nature by itself, pushing the way how we process coffees like that. And also some of NGOs also intervene on some of techno like projects. They were encouraging farmers cooperative to process a washed coffee in order to increase their incomes in the market as compared to natural. In the previous, washed coffee was earning a higher price. That's why we came to washed coffee, semi-washed, and in addition to natural. When the specialty coffees are invented and started encouraging people to produce natural coffees in best production manner, people start producing that, and now almost the specialty market even fetching higher price than washed is natural coffees. Just by saying this, when you are also looking our production system, the coffees are produced largely by smallholder farmers under forest, semi-forest, and the garden production system, and 5 to 10% of the production system is the plantation, which is good for implementing some load separation and processing. When you are looking, at the farmers level, as a washing station level, it is a challenging part is just the cherries from smallholder farmers who have less than 1 hectare collected in one place and process the coffees there. In that manner, it is a little bit challenging and difficult to produce different loads. But through the market push, like a niche market, people have started in the past 7-8 years producing some experimental processing, like anaerobic carbonic maceration, and some also use some yeasts for upgrading the quality of their coffees. And this kind of trends, there is a challenge, as I've said, since our farmers are fragmented, and also the processing is collected in one place, kind of it, that makes the challenge of producing, the challenge to produce, a specific lot high. Because of this and the climate changes, and also market demand. Most of Ethiopian coffees are known by its natural and washed. That's why market is looking for this kind of coffees. When there is specific market need for special lot preparation, our producer, our farmers, and the processor are willing to produce such kind of process, because just I remember 5 years or 6 years ago, when the anaerobic process is like a fashion in Ethiopia. People start producing anaerobic coffee. Farmers produce, and at the end, after production, the farmers couldn't get a market for that, because this process by itself has its own it takes time, and also it takes you invest, and also if you didn't get good market for that, you will lose. That's why as the end, these farmers, they change the name of that coffee to natural and sell it to the market because of there is no market. From that time, every processor, every producer, they produce, process the coffees as per, the market demand. When one buyer, asking, I need X quantities of this kind of preparation by providing, the recipe for processing is possible. Just as I'm, working with, with a coffee importer from North America, Crop to Cup. We have, clients, working with them as a smallholder farmers. I'm, closely following the operation, and we give our recipes like for washed honey and some lactic processing. In that regard, we bought all of what they produced. That's why they are, happy to produce. Otherwise, they are not. Most of producers, they were not, they are not, happy to process such kind of products. If there is a market, people are willing, even regardless all these challenges, even though it is, even though there is, traceability issues. Actually, regarding working with, smallholder farmers, Ethiopian government also let the smallholder having, a land more than 2 hectares to export directly. Since 2018, this is, allowed, to maybe, to the coffee importers, roasters to get, direct traceable from smallholder farmers. So in these kind of things, I think there is, it's time taking, needed some investment, and also, need knowledge. If there is a knowledge and the time, and if there is also a market for that, I think we are, as Ethiopian, happier to provide special process and lot preparation. Actually, when I'm talking special preparation, just not only the new experimental like anaerobic and blah blah. If you are, we are know this currently, we are, advocating as, Crop to Cup. We need to invest on implementing all the best processing practice for natural and wash preparation. If we are, doing in a best way, we can get, the profile from Ethiopian coffee, which is, from washed in the natural. We can get it the best, the highest level of the quality. So in this manner, I think, we are, just we are, I'm addressing the problem challenge, of this load separation challenges.
Awesome. Well, Moata, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I think it's so interesting seeing the differences between each growing region and the information that you're sharing, and to that, I think it's valuable to have other perspectives within the industry. And so, Andrea, as someone involved in green coffee buying, what do you hope the people you're talking to would pay more attention to? Do you think there is an awareness among buyers of where trends are coming from, or how they impact sustainability?
Thank you, Alex and Camila and Nora and the Chain Collaborative for this opportunity. And thank you to the farmers and processors speaking here. I think they really spoke to their reality. I do think that roasters and green buyers are aware of the trends, but I think that, they influence the trends. But I think people need to remember that there's context and geopolitical context that really affects and like topographical climate context that affects all of these issues and all of the trends. I think that I would love to see us move away from the scoring and the idea that only a high scoring coffee is a quality coffee, because oftentimes getting that high scoring coffee can be very hard depending on what your farm size is, what level, where it is, and it can be very unsustainable for someone. So I think we hear, I sell coffee from 7 different countries, and some of them sound very exotic. And I think because there's this idea that it's from an exotic producing country, it's got to be a very, very high scoring quality coffee. And that's not always the case, but it doesn't mean it's a high quality coffee. I think we fetishize producing countries and processing. I'm thinking like, sometimes we'll be amazed when someone produces a 89 scoring coffee with very limited infrastructure. And that gets into tricky territory of fetishizing poverty and stuff like that. So I think that, yeah, I would love everyone to pay more attention to the geopolitical context and the risk that the processor and the farmer is taking on. If you want your partner in origin to produce an exotic coffee or an exotic process, you have to be willing to buy that coffee if it doesn't score as high as you were expecting to. I think you have to be able to buy all of that coffee, or else it's not sustainable. And I think we also need to share that risk, and that's sharing that risk. If you're gonna expect the producer to experiment and do something that generations ago they didn't do, or even years ago they didn't do, you have to be willing to buy all of that coffee and find the value in all of that coffee as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, as a roaster myself, and then also in another context, the owner of a roasting business, I think it's something that we need to keep in mind. It's such a challenge, but I think it's also so easy to get lost in, wanting to get certain coffees and quality and things like that. And something I always try to reframe for myself. There are other aspects to this that are very important, and so it's great hearing those ideas reflected from people like you, and that these conversations are, while maybe difficult to have, you're trying to have these conversations with people on the other end of the supply chain. So thank you so much. Tenzing, what kinds of risks do you think producers take on when experimenting with new farming or processing practices? And how do you think those risks are supported or not by the rest of the value chain?
Well, I think, if you look at Nepal, for example, Nepal, we have always been producing a lot of wash coffees for all these years. And all these, with the evolvement of a lot of specialty lots, now that we see a lot of, new techniques with anaerobic naturals and honeys or carbonic maceration, one thing that we have to understand as a producer, and me being a processor myself, when I go to a lot of different origins, besides my farm, I do a lot of processing on my own, but I also visit a lot of different origins, sit down with a lot of smallholder farmers and sort of curate the lots, because most of the coffees that we have been processing all over Nepal has always been washed primarily, and because I also happen to be a past Q grader, I cupped a lot of coffees and I score them, and definitely with what's going on in the trend in the specialty market, when I used to cup these coffees, these coffees were not on the super 80s, these are hovering around like 83, 84, and right now the trend is more towards high 80s or above 85 and so on. So definitely when we go there, we want to advocate about new processing techniques to the farmers, but at the end of the day, the risk comes to us, meaning the processors, right? So we as a processors, we have to take that risk to sort of curate that lot, and we don't know if that risk is gonna pay us back in return. Fortunately, I run a own roastery of mine in Kathmandu, so that even if I fail in terms of the coffee, if for some reason the coffee, while curating the lot in an anaerobic condition, if it turns more fermenty, then maybe I have to probably end up, roasting that coffee on my own. So these are the, in that aspect, because in Nepal, like Moata said, we also have a lot of fragmented farms, and a lot of coffees, they sort of get consolidated into one lot. And of course, at that point of time, a lot of coffee sometimes might go bad when it's been processed. So the risk has always been on our end as a processor when we work with different origins, because I work with like 7 origins at one time. So definitely, during the harvesting season, you are running a lot of different places, and it becomes hard to keep track of each and everything and each and every lot, and And that is where we sort of find very hard to sort of mitigate that that falls in the protocol. So definitely the risk is on us. But I think at the end of the day, like I said, being an exporter myself as well, I've built a relationship with my buyers in the US and in other countries in such a way that I think I've been very transparent and very honest in terms of what I have to offer for my buyers overseas. And with all due respect, I think all of my buyers, they are well informed in advance that what lots are they expecting. And even if something goes wrong, there's always a second time. So the goal has always been to sort of get the coffees to a level where we feel that we can export these lots. But even if there's something wrong, even if something goes wrong in the process, we as a processor, we take that risk. And so far, fortunately, I've been lucky that I've not been able to produce bad lots. But there are other producers who have had a lot of a harsh experience in terms of curating a lot that sort of happened to be a bad one, thinking that they might be produce a lot that is significantly high in terms of the score. Because see, in terms of, because the specialty industry is so it's become, when we talk about specialty in Nepal, we talk a lot about scores. And we talk about, if the coffee scores 80 and 88, these are supposed to be a very premium coffees. But like Andrea said, sometimes it's not only about the scores. The buyers, our customers need to understand, the hardship, the amount of work that goes into producing a lot. And of course, that depends on country, that depends on origin, that depends on microclimate and terrain and terroir as well. But I think if you have a good relationship with your importers, with your roasters, end of the day, I think everything should go well. And they should, at the end of the day, not just look at the coffee from a score perspective, but I think look at coffee from a farmer's perspective and the amount of level of work that goes into curing that particular lot. Because not all farmers are blessed with having stainless steel tanks or these fancy drums that we see in the these major coffee producing countries. We work in a terrain where just getting to another farm takes 2 hours, and just getting a 10 kg coffee cherries gets another 5 hours, right? So we have to understand that, and I think that sort of needs to be translated to our buyers as well. And I think as it's our job as a processor and an exporter to sort of explain that story and explain that in a way that they can translate, that they can understand. So from my perspective and my opinion, I think it's not only about the cup quality. I think it's more than that, and I think that's what's probably missing in the specialty thought these days, because everybody's after chasing these high quality scores. But I think countries like Nepal, we definitely need to up our game in terms of the coffee quality and all that stuff. But more than that, I think relationship with our buyers and with our importers is very, very important in that sense. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I mean, and I think it's all something we've all, or you've all talked about, is it's that relationship aspect. I mean, I know myself, now I'd hope and think everyone else really got into this side of coffee to build relationships. It's more than a transaction. We're doing something with people all around the world in this very complex supply chain to support one another. And I think it's so easy to get away from that, so easy to get lost when we just think about the next best possible thing. At some point we're taking from something. And so if we can build those relationships, there's, some sort of mutual respect and understanding. And if we have relationships, we can care for everybody. And I think that's something each of you have touched on. And I think it's really important to consider as we move forward. Anna, before I go to the next question, thank you so much for submitting your questions. Please continue asking. We will get to them here soon. But Anna, if you could shift the conversation about production and processing trends to center the voices of farmers and communities more, what would that conversation sound like?
Thank you, Alex. Well, first of all, I think I might repeat something that you guys just said, Tenzing and Andrea, that it is, we are producers, and as processors, we're taking 100% of a risk. Like, this is, like, we're waiting for 3 years after we plant a coffee tree to wait for the first harvest. We don't know if it's going to rain, if we're going to have the sun that we need, if we're going to have the flowers that we actually need for a good harvest at the end. We depend on so many different variables that are not on our hands, and we need to have a lot of work during the whole year just to wait for a harvest that at the end it might not even be 60% of what we're waiting. So that's one of the first things, and it's just the production for us, and climate is a big risk that we're taking, and that at the end it will of course impact our cost directly, our cost of production. And when any farmer in any part of the world, but I'm going to talk about farmers in Colombia, try to do different stuff and innovate at their farm, they are taking 100% risk because they are not sure that this coffee is going to get the price they're hoping for. This is going to be highly a little bit more of a cost. It will take more time. It will take information and knowledge that they need to know and to acquire, to do those simple or small changes that will actually have a result on the cup at the end. So I think we need to understand that all of these processors, or most of the farmers in Colombia, are small processors. Like most of the people sell the coffee in parchment or dry cherry, which that kind of makes it a little bit different from other origins. And these are high risk for small farmers at the same time. So at the end, if it actually turned out good, great. If you actually have a relationship with a buyer that is willing to pay for that coffee. But if it didn't come out good, it might have been bad decision that ruined 2 years, 3 years, 1 year of hard work to get those cherries ready for those processes that those producers or processors are actually transforming. And I just wanted to add something else, is that I feel like in the specialty coffee world, a lot of people see Colombia as maybe an innovative origin. And I've seen how buyers and roasters on other countries are always asking, what do you have new? Like they're always wanting something new and something better. And how can you innovate? I mean, that is good because that is impulsing, or I don't know, like making us get better and try to get new things going on in a farm. But at the same time, it's a strong I don't know how to say this, but it's something that makes it's like a strong force that it might also impulse the producers and processors to do crazy stuff that at the end it won't actually have a good outcome. And that is a direct loss for the producer and the processor. I don't really know of roasters that will buy a bad coffee just because the producer didn't have a right outcome. At the end, it's going to be a loss for the producer and the processor because it actually took the 100% of a risk. That is not only 10 days. It's a whole, like, it's a long time to get those cherries ready for those innovations. But I also wanted to say that I think that the conversation should go farther than just seeing these things as trends. I feel like we need to see all of these innovations as a effort of origins or effort of processors and producers to contribute and to transform their own or our own way of doing our business in a sustainable way. So I feel like when we get a good way of processing, an innovation process, let's say, and it's actually a good thing, at the end, it might pay off all of the wrong or things at the end. It might take long by creating relationships, but at the end, what we're seeking is a whole community or a whole, let's say, producer or processor or farm or business that is looking for sustainability, not only for him or for that farm, but all of the community around it. I have seen how some producers are doing it the right way. They were the first ones, and for me, leaders that started doing different stuff, and that now we see as kind of role models because we see how they made their own farm and story and their own family story different. We saw them grow, and we see how if others can do it, why can't I don't know if that makes sense, but kind of for me it's like creating a space for producers looking at a brighter future, and seeing that we can actually bring these different technologies and small decisions that can change the outcome, and at the end bring new relationships, and that can create a sustainable way of doing things. We don't need to seek, if there is any producers listening to this, I feel like we don't need to seek those 89, 90 plus coffees. I don't feel like that's the way of going. If you have it, I mean, congrats. But I feel like we need is more of a relationship, to create relationships with people on the other side of the world. We have this type of communication spaces, and seek for those relationships that you can actually understand what their needs are, and they can actually understand what your needs are also, and that you can lift each other's story up, and you can try for it to work for in both ways. I feel like what we need to look more than those 890 plus coffees is that we need to look for good quality, taking care of our planet. It's something that we really need, and that's where we need innovation. And we need to create protocols that are replicable and that we can escalate to fulfill the needs of our clients and of the relationships that we have, and that we can make it work for everyone. And at the end, having open conversations on what my costs are and what my needs are. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think um it's really important to understand all these different things. I mean, for there's always, I feel like if we're chasing those numbers, we're chasing those cup scores, I feel like there's always going to be a higher number. I mean, to an extent, right? But if you can build a relationship with the producer, if you can work with them over many years and grow both as a roaster, in my perspective, um, and then watch them grow and help facilitate that growth and see their coffee maybe elsewhere, to me, that holds so much more weight. I mean, that is something, in my head, more unique than just, oh, there's an 89, oh, now there's a 90, oh, now, and that's just, for me, it doesn't speak to volume or caring for what's going on. And I mean, yeah, I mean, as someone who has worked in a cafe, I mean, the amount of times I've heard, oh, you know what you should be doing, oh, I had this somewhere else. Like, if that's how we feel on that end of the supply chain, why would anyone think it's any different on the producer side? um, so next, Andrea, how can roasters and importers balance the desire for unique cup profiles with the responsibility to support stability for producing communities?
It's a hard one right now. Like, I don't envy roasters, especially in the US, but all over the world, because I think it's hard to remove yourself from the seat price and or the higher prices. Coffee, at least in my market is North America. It's $1, $2 more than it was last year. So I imagine, obviously, if they can't make their ends meet, then the producer won't be able to make their ends meet, right? Like, it's a web. We say in specialty coffee that we're relationally driven, but the relationship it's not just the roaster and the producer. It's the person making the food for the pickers, it's the picker, it's the driver who transports the coffee. In some countries, the coffee is passed through thousands of hands, and all of those are part of this web of relationship. So I understand it's really hard. I imagine for roasters, it's really hard to see that high price sometimes and remove remove that responsibility, like think like, well, the responsibility is to be able to sell their end client, the end consumer, a cup of coffee. If the end consumer can't buy that cup of coffee, then all of the families and all the people who grew that coffee are also affected. So I think we forget, as consumers, I consume coffee as well, that we have so much buying power. Because if you can't sell that, $15 cup of coffee that might be like very interesting to you as a green buyer, then that producer is not going to get paid. It's not their investment in making that coffee is not going to be rewarded. And so I think it's like to support responsibility, or to support stability in producing countries, you have to remember that it's a relationship that applies to everyone involved. And I think we think like, oh, if the C price is high, or if the coffee price is high per pound, that means the producer is also getting a higher price. That is not often the case. So I think the risk needs to be shared. The end consumer has to be willing to be able to buy a cup of coffee. I think that's very hard in some places because coffee has been cheap for so long and it hasn't gone up. So yeah, I say to my clients, like, I know it's really hard to increase your prices, but only because it's a high price doesn't mean that producer is even being able to have their needs met. So yeah, I would just say, remember that we're all in this together, and it's a web of connection. Without the people in the origin countries in the global south, people like me in the north would not be able to consume coffee.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we're all interconnected through this crop, plant, bean, seed, however you want to look at it. Yeah, we're all connected in some way, and having relationships and caring, I think, just lessens the burden that has to carry. Thank you all so much. We have a few questions. So this first one is from Moata. So you mentioned a TechnoServe project which helped to establish cooperatives. Do you know if it is also funded washing stations? Around 2015 to 2018, there was a study that showed 60 of 80 washing stations are not being operational anymore. Do you see a trend where specialty demand from Ethiopia is leading to refurbishing these old processing stations, or are there new ones being built by specialty players?
To answer the question, TechnoServe is established, coming to Ethiopia to improve the quality of the coffees from the previous one. Previously, most of the coffees around the western area was exported or marketed as a lower grade Jimma 5 for coffees. Just to change that thinking, working with established cooperatives in the West, and most of the cooperatives in that area become successful. And after the project phased out, those cooperatives are passed to unions to support them technically on exporting their coffees and processing. As it's said, I don't know exactly the numbers, but some of the co-ops in the West, actually those who are far west in Ilibabor and some in Wallaga areas, they are not functional as those who are in close to Jima, like Agaro areas. Since they were, they have been, grouped under the union named Katamurga, they are, become more successful, and more washing station also established with the support of this union. Because of the success of this project, many cooperatives around Jima and Agaro areas, Gera areas, they are interested to have that. But this one is with the support of the union. They have their own washing station and producing washed coffees. In between 2015 to 18, I know Coffee Circle with the support of them and in collaboration with German donors. They provided washing station in Jimma areas. In Jimma area, mainly in Saka, Warada, in Agaro Gera areas, they installed, provided, donate this washing station, and most of these newly established co-ops also become successful. They have a good name in the market. So this is, I hope, I answer this question.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think so. I know a little while ago we had a question for Tenzing regarding the name of your roastery and cafe. You may have already answered this, but if you don't mind adding that in the chat or in the questions where people can see, or just sharing it here, I'm sure other people might be interested in that. Oh, actually, I see. All right, I see your answer. Never mind. Well, then even better. We have a an open-ended question for anyone who wants to answer. So, um, as many processing methods take a lot of time and stress, do you think farmers need to ask roasters and baristas and green importers to be more understanding and not to rush for the sake of better results? I'll leave it to the floor.
I think it's tricky to ask someone not to rush because this is a transactional thing, right? This is a transactional system. And so I think with education and transparency, people who are not in producing countries or who are not a farmer will understand that, like Anna said, coffee takes years to grow. I think it comes down a lot to like, if the roaster is doing their job and the producer doing their job, it doesn't have to be so hard. I think forecasting is really important. And I think pivoting to other origins, to other kinds of coffee is really important as well. So patience is a virtue for sure, I think, with processing. So yeah, I think it's unfair to ask something to be rushed that you can do everything right in agriculture and it is out of your hands at the end. Sometimes, I don't know if that fully answers the question, but
Yeah, no, I think it's tough, especially like you shared and like everyone has shared to some degree. I mean, it's you can only do so much, and at the end of the day, it's the climate or weather or whatever that could really throw a wrench into things. I'm sure we've all experienced, something like that. No matter where we're working or what we're doing, there are just some things we can't control, and it kind of impacts things. So one last final question, and this is maybe for Andrea or anyone else that feels, uh, you know, they can answer. What do you think about trends in processing which may have already passed? If only a small consumer segment asks for certain processing methods, is that a small trend? Also, what is really happening on the consumer end in terms of trends? Do you think some trends have already passed, at least in your part of the world, wherever you are? Um, what are your thoughts on that?
not to keep talking, but I think that most trends are cyclical. Many things are cyclical in culture, in society. And I know I have clients who want clean washed típicas always. I think that some trends, there's different kinds of coffees. We want the coffee we want to drink every day, a couple times a day. You want it to hit a certain note. And then there's the coffees that you want for a special occasion, maybe. So I think trends are cyclical, but they're really, really affected by the consumer. And like everyone has been saying, by social media or by contexts like Nepalese workers going to work in Gulf countries. So I'm sure that many people would like to see the co-ferment trend maybe go away, but I think that it's gonna come back around. I think it's born out of a need and like the desire for something special and different.
I wanted to add something, and I feel like we need to go farther than just seeing the trend of processing as for funky and crazy and conformance, and that's not where only that innovation in processing is going to. I feel like that's a phase where a lot of producers have started and processors and have done a great job doing what they do. But I feel that this is bringing more information, science to the processing, and at the end, bringing those techniques to a looking for a clean, sweet flowers in the coffee, and like we can bring a very nice and I forgot the word, but like that has a very good cup at the end. So when we think in innovation in processing, we shouldn't just think in funky, crazy cups in like explosion in your mouth. We need to bring more of a way of seeing these processing methods as innovation to bring better cup quality. Without uh, it doesn't matter what you feel like a good cup of quality is at the end, what you think about it. What I want to just say is bringing that knowledge and that science to what we're doing is letting us as processors and producers to create and design what we want at the end. So if you don't like funky coffees, you know what? The science and the knowledge that we're getting from what we are transforming at our farms are giving us the tools to give a good cup quality with the different types of flavors, or not flavors, but if you're looking for a better acidity, we know how to do it through microbiology. If you want better mouthfeel, like we are understanding more what is happening through science. So I feel like it doesn't matter what the market or what they're looking for. I feel like that real innovation is in the information and the knowledge that we're gathering that we didn't have before.
Yeah, thank you. Knowledge is power. There you go. We can use it in so many different ways. So yes, thank you all so much for coming and joining us for the past hour. It's been wonderful having our panelists. Thank you so much for your knowledge and generous time, and sharing everything with us from all different aspects of the coffee growing regions and supply chain. We really appreciate it. Also, thank you to the Coffee Knowledge Hub for supporting us, TCC, as we put on this webinar series. Please join us for our second and third. Our second is going to be about trends in coffee roasting and consumption, held on Thursday, October 16th. And then the webinar number 3, our final in the series, will be on trends in coffee valuing and pricing. And that will be Thursday, November 6th. So thank you all so much. Once again, panelists, thank you for being here and spending your time with us. This is, Alex Jacob from the Chain Collaborative. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.